So, this is Owlboy, and like basically, I really wanted to love this game. It is such a beautiful game. Um, and it's not bad, but unfortunately, like I'd be lying if I said it didn't disappoint me a little bit. Um, I think you can like this game's from what I understand, is supposed to be a Metroidvania game, but it doesn't really have a lot in common with Metroidvania games. Hold on, let me turn down the volume a little bit. Um, so a Metroidvania game is kind of has like three main components, maybe four. You have platforming, you have combat, and you have exploration. And the fourth one might be story, right? Um, but the three components that are most critical to gameplay are combat, platforming, and exploration. Unfortunately, this game lacks on all three components, and it emphasizes story, which to me is not that important, and I didn't really like. Um, so combat-wise, like you have like the spin attack, which can mostly stun enemies, and then you have like buddies, which have different weapons, different abilities, and they're pretty cool. I mean they're okay, but like if I were to compare it to, let's say, um, Hollow Knight or Dust or even Ori, it's just not as good. Like I'm thinking of like other games like Shantae. They all have better combat than this game does. I mean, it's not bad, but it's nothing. It's nothing that really impresses me either. As you can see, in terms of platforming, like you very rarely are like moving around on the ground. I mean, you can, but most of the time you're just flying around, and because of that, there isn't a whole lot of platforming in the traditional sense. It's mostly navigating a space and looking around, and you can avoid some obstacles and things like that. And they do have some really cool action sequences, but like you're not gonna find any of the platforming in games like Ori or Hollow Knight in this game. Um, and that could be fine for some people, but it was kind of lacking for me. Now, the most important thing is exploration, and that is absolutely a place where this game is lacking. Um, it is very linear, and I mean, there are some Metroidvania games out there that are linear, but they at least have a sense of exploration. This doesn't. This game is so linear and has such a little emphasis on exploration, or I should say no emphasis, that it doesn't even have a map. Like, it doesn't have a classic Metroidvania style map at all. There's nothing like it. Because it doesn't need it. Because there is no exploration to have in this game. It's linear. You just go from one place to another. It sprawls in all four directions just like a Metroidvania game does, but with none of the exploration. So that's what brings down the game a lot. The other thing that brings down the game is, unlike most other Metroidvania games, in other Metroidvania games you learn new abilities, and that allows you to access new areas that basically double as a key. This game doesn't have that, again because of the lack of emphasis on exploration and the linearity. So it's missing some major components of it being a Metroidvania game. So much to the point of where I think you would enjoy this a lot more if you don't think of it as a Metroidvania game. If you think of this game as just kind of like an adventure game, then I think you would do a lot better, or you wouldn't be as likely to be disappointed. As I said before, the game spends a lot of time emphasizing the story. I'm playing horribly right now because I'm trying to concentrate on the review, but I'm not this bad. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of dialogue in the game, and unfortunately, it just wasn't that interesting. At least to me. I think to like maybe a younger gamer, it could very well be a lot more interesting. But for me, yeah, it really wasn't. And there's so much dialogue that I wished that there was voice acting, and I understand why there isn't. It's an indie game, had a limited budget. I get it. But there's so much dialogue, I really felt like it could have benefited a lot from having voice acting. It would have made it that much better, since they spent so much time on the story. And since it spends so much time on story, and the story's not interesting, it brings down the game. Like, it just kind of feels like it gets in the way of the gameplay when you aren't interested in it. Um, the final thing I want to talk about are the graphics, which are fantastic. They are so good. It has kind of like 16-bit or 32-bit style, like something that not something. Let me phrase this in a way that makes sense. Uh, Something that you absolutely would expect to see on the Sega Saturn. So definitely better than 16-bit. I would say like Sega Saturn quality, but even better. It's so gorgeous, and they have all kinds of great effects, like when you're in the hub area and the time of day changes. All the bitmap colors, all the artwork changes colors to reflect the change in the time of day. And it's so gorgeous. There's so many really cool effects. The enemy design's really cool. Um, and also the boss fights. The bosses look cool, and the boss fights themselves are really cool too. They're well designed. They're challenging. I think the challenge in this game is pretty good. It's not frustrating. It's not super hard like Hollow Knight is. It's more like a relaxing game, but it still is challenging. Um, it's not intended to have that kind of focus. So, um, for what it set out to do, the challenge is perfectly fine. Personally, yeah, I have to say it's not a bad game, and it's not like I didn't enjoy it, but it just didn't capture me. It didn't invest me and invest my attention as much as other Metroidvania games have. If you're looking for like a Metroidvania game with this kind of art style, this kind of 16-bit slash 32-bit art style, I think Shantae is a better game. Um, because that one, it hits all the right marks when it comes to what to expect from a Metroidvania game. Whereas, this one isn't like that. But this one definitely has much better graphics, I think. So it's a beautiful game. Maybe one day I might play it again and focus on it a little bit more, and maybe I can come around to it. But yeah, if you're looking for something with the Metroidvania style mechanics, I think there are better Metroidvania games out there. And that's all I gotta say.